Welcome in. This is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me on yet another edition of the Midweek Blitz.
Play 11 of the drive. Mahomes pumps, fires end zone. It is caught for the touchdown by Tyquan Thornton.
The Midweek Blitz is where we break down everything Kansas City Chiefs going on in the week and get you ready for the upcoming game. In this game, I don't have to tell you. 1-2 Ravens versus 1-2 Chiefs. Both of these teams coming in desperate because I'll tell you this is an absolute fact. Whoever loses this game is going to be written off. The Chiefs or the Ravens, whoever loses, immediately the media is going to go, they have no playoff shot, they're not a Super Bowl contender anymore, and all the nuances from their season will be forgotten, and all anyone will do is throw them by the wayside. Now, technically, that's not really true. You have a chance at 1-3, but let's not sit here and pretend that your percentage chances of going to the playoffs at 1-3 are anywhere near the percentage chance when you're 2-2. This is a crucial game for the Chiefs, and it's a crucial game for the Ravens. Two incredibly talented teams who have underperformed, and now they are on a collision course in a game that's going to hopefully lean the Chiefs' side and decide the fate of both of these teams going forward. So let's dive in. We have a lot to get to. Number one headline from this week so far for the Kansas City Chiefs: Xavier Worthy, a full participant in practice, and multiple reports around the NFL say that Xavier Worthy will be back playing this week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, how back is he? That's the big question, right? I mean, that's the big question we all have. How back is Xavier Worthy? Is he back in the sense that he's going to come back and, be the focal point of the offense? Because that was the original idea. It looked like very early on from the get-go for the Chiefs, the offensive game plan was going to be built around using Xavier Worthy. He had become the most dynamic player on that offense. Travis Kelce aged out of it. Juju Smith-Schuster isn't going to be that guy. Rashee Rice is suspended. Who else was going to take that role? Who else on the Chiefs was going to be the guy that was going to basically stir the drink of the offense? Because for years, that was Travis Kelce. Even before Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce is the focal point of the offense. Fact is, he's not that guy anymore. They tried last year with him. He had moments, but last year a big part of it was that Travis Kelce was draped all the time. He had coverage on him consistently. Now, he actually gets open pretty consistently because he's not the focal point of the offense anymore. Xavier Worthy was supposed to be. But he got knocked out of the game and out of the season 3 plays in. That was absolutely devastating for the Chiefs offense. So now, with Xavier Worthy coming back, if he can even take a little bit of the load, it's going to help everything for the Kansas City Chiefs. It'll open up things for Travis Kelce. It'll open up things for the rest of the wide receivers. It'll make things easier for Isaiah Pacheco because you have a guy who can stretch the field. Somebody defenses have to respect, even if he's not 100%. And let's be clear, Xavier Worthy's not a power guy, obviously. He's a speed guy. So if this were a knee injury or an ankle injury or even a hamstring injury, I would feel more concerned. But because this is Xavier Worthy with a shoulder injury, I'm less concerned. You can kind of protect yourself from a shoulder injury if you're Xavier Worthy. Just make sure you play the sidelines well. Don't go over the middle for heavy contact. Boom. You've protected yourself. If he had to tackle somebody or something like that, that'd be totally different. So it's not just a regular coming back from injury situation. It's not, to use this example, it's not Isaiah Pacheco. When Isaiah Pacheco came back, he had surgery on his leg. He had a steel rod in there and 8 screws. Expecting Isaiah Pacheco to come back and be at full strength was unrealistic last season, and frankly, a little bit unrealistic this season too. He looked better last week. We'll get to more on Pacheco here in a bit. But the point of even bringing that up is that Xavier Worthy doesn't have to worry about easing back into the plays. He just has to worry about protecting his shoulder because he wasn't going to be a guy who uses that shoulder a whole lot anyway. He's a speed guy. He uses the legs, man. So as long as his legs aren't injured, and they're not, Xavier Worthy should be significantly impactful for the Kansas City Chiefs quickly against the Baltimore Ravens. And I think he will be playing. If he's a full participant in practice, and there are reports out there saying that he will play, I believe that he will. There was a moment, and if you watch the live stream, which I'll be live streaming on TikTok again this week for the Chiefs and the Ravens game, just like I was last Sunday night for the Chiefs and the Giants. But if you remember, if you watched that, and those of you that did watch it, thank you. I had a ton of fun with you. That was an absolute blast. But if you remember that, that broadcast and that live, the big thing I was bringing up about Xavier Worthy is the possibility that the Chiefs are sort of using him as a way to make teams prepare for him, right? In a similar way that Kyle Shanahan used Christian McCaffrey last year, where there was no report that Christian McCaffrey was going to miss so much time. They just kind of slow played it to make teams prepare for Christian McCaffrey. I questioned during the game, is that maybe what the Chiefs are doing with Xavier Worthy? Well, because of what we know now, because of the full participant in practice on Wednesday, and the fact that everyone's saying he's going to play, I think the reality is they just wanted to make sure that Xavier Worthy was as healthy as he could possibly be. And to that, I say kudos to Andy Reid. Kudos to the Chiefs organization. Kudos to the strength and conditioning coaches and the trainers and doctors working for the Chiefs. Because I know it had to be very difficult to get Xavier Worthy to accept taking a little extra time off to let that shoulder heal. But they did. And now Xavier Worthy seemingly back, seemingly going to play on Sunday against the Ravens. And that is by far the biggest news that anybody could hope for in all of Chiefs Kingdom, is getting Xavier Worthy back. And he's back, baby.
From the 11, first down. Pass, Worthy, touchdown. Touchdown, Kansas City.
In trouble, but Worthy on Hamlin. I mean, you've got one of the fastest players in the net.
So that's the most exciting news imaginable, because he can be the focal point of the offense. I don't expect it now because he's just now back. And frankly, Tyquan Thornton, you got to give him the ball more, right? He's working. Travis Kelce in mid-range situations, for the love of everything, stop throwing him screens. The tight end screen hasn't worked for Travis Kelce for 3 years. It hasn't. They keep going back to it, and it doesn't work. Did you see the outside screen they tried to him this week, where there were two guys out there? He had one blocker. He lost 2 yards. Of course he did. He's not 27 anymore, man. Stop throwing him tight end screens. But what we have seen, especially in the second half, is they stopped with all that dump-off screen crap, and they started throwing mid-range balls to Travis Kelce, which plays to his strength. Travis Kelce right now is a great mid-range ball catcher. He's not going to do a lot with his tight end screens, and he's probably not going to be great with deep balls, but the ability of Travis Kelce to still get open in the middle of in that mid-range, that 5 to 15 yards for the Chiefs, he is still one of the best route runners in the NFL when it comes to intermediate routes 10 to 15 yards down the field. The more the Chiefs can get him in those situations, like they did in the second half against the New York Giants, the more that Travis Kelce will be an incredible impact on the Kansas City Chiefs and continue to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Save for a couple of big mistakes he's made this year, taking Xavier Worthy out, that sucked, and the ball popping off his hands for an interception that blew the game against the Eagles. We can't rephrase what happened there. That stunk. However, when you eliminate those two situations, he's had a fantastic year. Now, I understand you can't eliminate those two big mistakes, but the overarching point there is that it's not like Travis Kelce has fallen off. Travis Kelce needs an adjustment to focus. And Travis Kelce said he felt like, on his podcast, he felt like the offense turned a corner. I'll say this. I think Travis Kelce turned a corner when Andy Reid gave him a little shoulder check. He got his get back for the Super Bowl a couple years ago. He gave Travis a little shoulder check, woke him up a little bit, and said, hey, you got to get on point. You want to look at everybody else? You have to be focused. And suddenly, Travis Kelce got the fire back in him. And let me tell you something. That's why Andy Reid makes the big bucks. That's why the Chiefs have the highest paid head coach in the NFL, because Andy Reid knows how to get the best out of everyone. And I guarantee you 99% of the players Andy Reid's had would not have responded well to that shoulder check. So he didn't do it. But Travis Kelce is a 1%er, man. He is a different kind of cat, an emotional guy that needs emotion brought to him for him to get the picture. And the second that shoulder check from Andy Reid went to Travis, he locked in. We saw a different guy. He was ready to go, and that sometimes has to happen, man. Travis has a lot going on. And I don't mean just Taylor Swift. The guy's doing his podcast before the Eagles game. They were at Power and Light doing a show. You know who else does that in the NFL? Nobody. So to expect Travis Kelce to be 100% focused when he's doing all the extracurriculars, that's not realistic unless he has a guy like Andy Reid and hopefully other people on his team helping him focus when it's time to play. Because the two mistakes Travis has made that were catastrophic this year, that hurt Xavier Worthy and that blew the Eagles game, and that did, in fact, blow the Eagles game. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. They came from lack of focus. They came from lack of concentration. But that feeling Travis had with the offense turning a corner in the second half in New York, I think that feeling was very internal. Travis is projecting it onto the entire offense, but what I saw the biggest change in was Travis Kelce. And that should get everybody fired up. Because if Travis Kelce's on point to the level where Travis is actually an absolute badass, like we know he can be, well, then that changes the whole offense, not just in the sense of making big plays, getting numbers, putting up stats, but in the sense of the mentality that Travis brings to the team. This is why I've said forever, I don't care if Travis wants to play till he's 40, even if he's got to use a walker out there. If he wants to play, put him on the sideline, because the energy that Travis Kelce brings to the Kansas City Chiefs is, you can't even quantify how valuable it is. That's how important the energy is that Travis Kelce brings to the table. But that energy has to be focused in the right way. If the energy is focused incorrectly, then it can pull the team down. That's what happens with energy guys. Ray Lewis is a great example of this. Ray Lewis, big energy guy, right? One of the greatest energy guys in the history of time, probably the greatest motivational speaker in NFL history. But when Ray didn't have it right, the whole team was affected. That's part of being an energy guy. When you're high energy, everybody feels it. But when you're low energy, everybody feels it too. And that's why guys like that, you have to make sure their energy's in the right place. And that's another reason why when Andy Reid put that little shoulder check into Travis Kelce, I loved it. Because I thought that is exactly how you get a guy like that to shift his energy to a positive place and understand how important him being mentally prepared and being in the right place and having the right energy is to the entire team. Now, we'll get to this running back situation for the Kansas City Chiefs here in just 1 second. But first, injuries and sloppy play are just plaguing the NFL. If you watched the NFL this last weekend, injuries galore. Nick Bosa for the 49ers is gone. The 49ers strength and conditioning team and their trainers, somebody's got to figure something out because they have like the most filled injury report with catastrophic injuries every single year. But it's not just the 49ers. It's all across the board. We saw it with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have had sloppy play. The Chiefs have had injuries you wouldn't normally see 5, 6, 7 years ago. And that's because the new collective bargaining agreement destroyed the crispness of the NFL. That's what it is. There's less preseason games, more regular season games, and guys come in not ready to play full speed football. See what happened with Travis and Xavier. That's what that was. And yeah, Travis, it was his fault. But Xavier Worthy needs to keep his head on a swivel. That's not an incident that happens in week 5. That's an incident that happens in week 1 because guys aren't prepared to play football anymore. And that's an NFL problem and a problem from the players' union. Both sides agreed to this because the NFL was like, well, we can make more money with an extra regular season game. And then the players' union was like, well, we hate preseason anyway. Of course you hate preseason. Everyone hates preseason. Everyone hates practice. Everyone hates putting in the time to get better. Everyone hates that. But you still have to do it. That way you don't go out there, go full speed, and get yourselves hurt because you're too sloppy to know what the hell you're doing. And that's a frustration for me because, the NFL says they care about player safety. Clearly, this was not a player safety decision. To add a regular season game, don't add another bye, that's how you fix this, by the way. and then take away a preseason game. The way to do this from a player safety perspective would have been to add a second bye for each team. But that would be, I don't know that that would help the bottom line of the NFL. I don't know. I haven't crunched the numbers. I don't know all the numbers. But I know that that would be a quick fix to the fatigue and everything else, but not a quick fix for the early injuries and the sloppy play that causes them. So that's the frustration that I have watching football right now, because we're watching a crappy product. 30-0, all the blowouts that happen, the blowouts that are coming early in the year, a big reason for that is because you have teams that come out that just aren't prepared. They're not prepared. They don't know what they're doing because they haven't had the time to come together and understand what's happening. So you have a huge advantage if you're the Kansas City Chiefs or if you're the Baltimore Ravens, which makes it even more weird that both teams are 1-2 going into this week. It goes completely against conventional wisdom for these teams to both be 1-2. But here we are. Derrick Henry has a fumbling problem for Baltimore. We'll get to that right now. We'll get to the running back situation in Kansas City in just 1 minute. But while we're on it, Derrick Henry's fumbling situation is an absolute disaster for the Ravens. But I don't think it's going to change. I think it's a situation where Derrick Henry has some kind of mental issue where it's in his head now. Right? Early on, no, it wasn't. It was a couple of great plays, but he had that ball last week against the Lions just sticking right out there for anybody to come punch right out. And I think it was Hutchinson that got it. But that's what's going on with Derrick Henry. I think his late game fumbles are more an issue that he's having mentally. If he fixes that, it's terrifying. But I don't know. I look at Derrick Henry and I'm thinking, you saw him on the sideline, right? After it happened, you saw him have his meltdown, throwing his helmet, being upset. I mean, that doesn't look like a guy who's gaining confidence. It looks like a guy who's hit his breaking point.
That he's pursuing the football and then he's able to punch it out.
I'm just calling it like I see it. When I saw Derrick Henry, I said that looked like a guy who hit his breaking point. And that's the reality of his situation. So I don't fear Derrick Henry, but I also know that Derrick Henry's never been somebody who could ever touch Spags' defense. Going back to the Tennessee Titans days in the playoffs when they rode Derrick Henry through to the AFC Championship game, and then when they had the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, Spags and the defense shut Derrick Henry down. And I see no reason on God's green earth why that's not going to happen again this Sunday as the Chiefs take on the Ravens, because Derrick Henry, with the fumble yips, going against Steve Spagnuolo's defense, a defense he's never been good against, the safe bet is he's going to get shut down again. Now, on to the Chiefs running back situation. Also, a quick thing on the Chargers, as they are 3-0 and have a dominating lead in the AFC West. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But first, the Chiefs running back situation is not dire yet. I don't think it's a dire situation. I don't think it's a terrible situation, but it is a concern. Isaiah Pacheco doesn't look like he looked a few years ago. He has not come back from his injury at the same level. However, against the Giants, you saw a few flashes. This is going to take time. I don't think the Chiefs are going to trade for a big-name running back. I don't think they're going to go sign some guy who's sitting on his couch. I think we are past that point for the Kansas City Chiefs, barring an injury, of course. If somebody gets injured, that changes. But for right now, I don't think you see a big personnel change for the Kansas City Chiefs at running back. I think you see patience. And you know what? That's the best way to go about this. Patience with Pacheco. Let him get those legs going. Because I think we saw against the New York Giants that Isaiah Pacheco has a very good possibility by mid-season to be running at a very good rate. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I think that would be an unfair bar to set for Isaiah Pacheco, is that he would become a top 5 or even top 10 back. But top 15, you could see that. And right now, that's what you got to look for. And Kareem Hunt's great at what Kareem Hunt does. And I think the fact is they got to get him more carries. He softens the defense. That's why I love Kareem Hunt. It's not just about the numbers. A lot of times in a fantasy football and stat-driven world, everybody focuses so much on the numbers. But if you watch what Kareem Hunt brings to the Kansas City Chiefs beyond the numbers, he softens the defense. He makes the defense put guys on the inside because he's a battering ram right through the middle. So I don't really care if Kareem Hunt gets amazing numbers or not. I think he needs more touches in order to open up everything else for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. Because he can do that with his ability to power run. Stats are not important when it comes to Kareem Hunt. Running him consistently to make sure that defense must respect number 29, that is how you use Kareem Hunt. And finally, potentially the biggest thing going on is that we got to see a little bit of Brashard Smith against the New York Giants, and I liked what I saw. They used him in more of a gadget play situation, an end-around type player, and so far, I like what I see from Brashard Smith. My guess is the only reason he's not getting a lot of reps at running back and he's getting more gadget player reps is because of his pass protection. If you followed Andy Reid's career at all, you know pass protection is everything for his running backs. If all you can do is run, you can't play in Andy Reid's offense. So for Brashard Smith, I think there's a learning curve because I was a little surprised. We aren't seeing him at running back. We're seeing him more in gadget plays. That means in my mind, that Andy Reid has looked at Brashard Smith and said, this is a really talented guy who can help us, but from an every down perspective, or even from a plain running back in a third down situation perspective, he has to get better at pass blocking. So that's going to take time, but that is more of a long-term solution. If we're talking about the running back situation, we can't just be talking about the Ravens game. We have to look ahead. What's week 10 look like? That's a big thing for me in the NFL because teams in the first half of the season aren't who they are by December, January. So for the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not focused on who are the Chiefs right now. You know who the Chiefs are right now? They're a very flawed football team, especially offensively, with a defense that's super strong with an amazing secondary despite all the turnover they've seen there. So that's who the Chiefs are right now. But who are the Chiefs going to be by week 10? So go with me on this journey for a minute. Let's say by week 10, Isaiah Pacheco's leg is healed and he's running with more tenacity and more speed than he is right now. By week 10, Brashard Smith has a better understanding of the offense and a better understanding of pass protection, so the Chiefs can put Brashard Smith at running back, especially on third downs, which I think is where they really need him, because he can catch the ball out of the backfield very well. So then you have another dynamic weapon put in during situations where dynamic weapons are at a premium, third down. You have Rashee Rice back by week 7. So by week 10, Rashee Rice should be in the groove and running like he's been playing all season, but with fresher legs. Awesome. Juju Smith-Schuster will still have his role of being a strong possession receiver. Travis Kelce will hopefully be more in the groove of the season and have his legs underneath him and be more focused now that he has his life more football-oriented. Xavier Worthy should be back and healthier with that shoulder starting to heal, even if he still has to play with a brace. And frankly, if there's structural damage, he's going to have to play with a brace all year. He will be in the groove of the season. He'll have his legs underneath him, and he won't be as concerned about his shoulder because he'll knock off that rust and that little bit of worry that does always come when you're a guy coming off of injury. By week 10, Josh Simmons will have had over half a football season at left tackle, where, by the way, he's playing pretty damn well already. So he'll have half a football season in the NFL to really understand what's going on in the day-to-day, week-to-week grind that is a football season in the National Football League. Then Josh Simmons will be obviously more comfortable and presumably even better at left tackle for Patrick Mahomes. So after going through this little journey with me, looking at what week 10 could potentially be for the Kansas City Chiefs, how confident do you feel now about the Chiefs making a run in the playoffs? I feel better. I feel like, okay, we get frustrated during games. I get frustrated during games. But the reason for the midweek blitz a lot of the time is to gain perspective. Is to look back at this and go, okay, Some of that was good, some of that was bad. But looking forward at what the potential is for the team, it is still huge. And the offense has a potential to become a juggernaut. I didn't even bring up Jalen Royals yet, frankly, because I don't know what they're doing with him. I mean, seriously, I don't know. You tell me, what are they doing with Jalen Royals? Because he was on the sideline for the New York Giants game. I saw him standing behind Andy Reid with his helmet on, ready to go. And he just stayed there, ready to go. Didn't go in. So you tell me what's going on with Jalen Royals. I think we'll see him in some capacity during this season. But, right now Remigio's getting snaps over Jalen Royals. So it's hard for me to really get hyped up about a guy when he's losing snaps to Remigio. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's been injured, but he was healthy, presumably, and available against the Giants. He never saw the field. So I don't know what's going on with Jalen Royals. However, if we're going to talk about potential, they like Jalen Royals if he's healthy and they think he's really good and eventually going to be a very good player for this team, then awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But yes, he is someone to keep in mind if we're trying to look in a crystal ball the week 10. So this is part of just accepting that the Chiefs are not a finished product offensively, and they've been reeling ever since the injury to Xavier Worthy. He was going to be the central focal point of the offense this season, taking over for Travis Kelce. And when he went down, it looked like the Chiefs just started reeling. I mean, they didn't know what to do, especially in the game against the Chargers. It felt like a lot of that game plan, and I think even Andy Reid said before the game that a lot of the game plan was going to be focused on Xavier Worthy. And why wouldn't it be? He's the speed guy. He's the fastest guy in the field. You lose the fastest guy in the field, you have a hard time trying to make up for that. So now we have to kind of take a step back and say, well, what does it mean when he comes back? I think it means a lot. Now, one player for the Kansas City Chiefs is starting to become a big star in the NFL. A big star. We'll tell you who it is coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, we got to talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. The LA Chargers are fool's gold. These guys should have lost to the Broncos. They should have lost to the Chiefs. If Xavier Worthy doesn't get blown up on play 3 by Travis, then the Chiefs probably beat the Chargers. If Bo Nix can hit an easy streak pass to Courtland Sutton down the left side, then the Broncos beat the Chargers. Now the Chargers are 1-2. The Chargers are very fortunate to be 3-0. They were handed a win by the Denver Broncos in a game where they didn't play well at all. So everybody wants to crown the LA Chargers, but I am telling you, period and point blank, the Chargers are fool's gold, and they will not hold throughout the season. I do not think they win the AFC West. In fact, I think there's still a good chance, believe it or not, that the Chargers finish third in the division. They are fool's gold. They're not that good of a team. Even that pass that everyone's praising by Justin Herbert, that wasn't a good pass. All the Broncos DB has to do is swipe his hand at the right time and it's incomplete, or he turns his hips and gets a pick. That's not a great pass. That's a lucky pass. Everybody praises luck from Justin Herbert because they've been waiting for this. Everyone's been waiting for Justin Herbert to be relevant since he started. He's been the most propped up, overrated quarterback in the NFL since he got to the NFL. And everyone continues to do it, including Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh's like, I think he should make the Hall of Fame. Win a playoff game first. How about that? Makes the Hall of Fame. My dog just got up. He looked at you okay? Yes, I'm okay, Theo. I'm sorry. Justin Herbert getting me fired up, man. But that's the thing. The Chargers are always the most overrated team in existence because the NFL wants LA to be relevant so badly. That's what this is. Watch The Herd with Colin Cowherd. My God, he's salivating in his mouth every time he sees the Chargers do anything remotely positive just because he has such a significant LA bias. That's where this comes from. It's LA bias surrounding the Chargers and people wanting them to be good so badly. It's why they're the champions every offseason. Every offseason, everybody says how good the Chargers are going to be. Finally, the Chargers have a start at 3-0. Despite how lucky it is, they are 3-0. And so everybody's going to crown them and talk about how great the Chargers are. But the fact of the matter is, the Chargers are not a good football team. They're an okay, decent football team. But I do not think they're a good football team. They're fool's gold. And by the end of this season, you will see exactly what I'm talking about because their luck is about to run out. Now, I'm expecting the Chiefs to do something this week against the Ravens that they haven't done all season. Tell you what that is coming up in just a few minutes. But first, George Karlaftis, Furious George, is becoming a legitimate big-time star in the NFL. And what I mean by that is that offenses now are not just looking at number 95 Chris Jones on the Chiefs defense when they prepare for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're looking for number 56 too. He's starting to get that kind of treatment where everybody has to know where Furious George is before the play starts because he'll blow your play up. Ask the New York Giants. Giants put up 37 points against the Cowboys. They could only muster 9 against the Chiefs, and now Russell Wilson is benched. So that's what the Chiefs defense did to them, and George Karlaftis was everywhere in that game. You do that on national television? After all the things he's done in the playoffs, 56 George Karlaftis is quickly becoming a big-time star in the NFL. And you know what? It couldn't happen to a better fit for Kansas City. George Karlaftis is a Kansas City guy. You see how he is, how he worked with his contract, everything that he does. He's the guy that you want on your football team 10 times out of 10.
Game against Lamar Jackson. What does it take to contain him?
It takes all 11. I can tell you that. We got so much respect for the dude. Not just him, but their whole offense. Really, their whole team. I mean, they're tough. They do stuff the right way. Lamar specifically is so athletic, but he's such an accurate quarterback. I don't think he gets enough respect for that.
So getting to see George Karlaftis become a big-time NFL star and starting to get some of that recognition nationally that we've known in Kansas City he's deserved for years. That's exciting, man, because it's hard as a defensive lineman, especially if you're not a top pick, to get a lot of marketability. It just is. If you're a top pick, it's great. Chris Jones took him a lot of time. Chris Jones was a dominant force in the NFL for years before he got recognition from people around the NFL and from national media. And now we're seeing the same thing happen with George Karlaftis. If you're Jadeveon Clowney and you're a first overall pick, then that's different. But, when you're not, it takes a little bit of time. And George Karlaftis, the time is now for him. And that's awesome to see. What a stud. What an absolute stud of a football player George Karlaftis is. In the back, if you just watch him, go watch a Chiefs game back, one that you've already watched, and just watch 56 every play. You're going to be in awe. That guy is a machine of dominance on a play-in, play-out basis, and now the whole NFL is starting to learn about how incredible George Karlaftis really is. I'm excited about it, man. It gets me fired up. Now, we'll hear from Patrick Mahomes here in just a moment. Thank you to 810 Sports Radio WHB in Kansas City for the audio of George Karlaftis at his press conference. But here comes Patrick Mahomes talking about a man who is back in the building. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. But first, this Sunday against the Ravens, the Chiefs are going to do something they haven't done all year. And that is get off to a fast start offensively. Because as Travis Kelce said this week, in the second half against the Giants, it felt like the Chiefs turned a corner offensively, and now they seem to be on the same page. A page they weren't on for 2.5 games to start the season. Now we're watching them get on that page, and the return of Xavier Worthy, along with the fire that we saw against the New York Giants, that carrying over, to me, indicates the Chiefs will get off to a fast start, which they desperately will need against the Baltimore Ravens this week. And I'll even go further on that. The Ravens are on the ropes. The Ravens are 1-2. They're on the ropes. And if the Chiefs get off to a fast start, which I believe they will, they're going to punch the Ravens right square in the mouth. They're going to let them know who the dominant team on the field is. And when they do that, the Ravens will quit. They're already on the ropes, guys. They're already starting to feel that pressure of 1-2. A team that everybody in the media had in their Super Bowl is about to go 1-3. And when they feel that fear in their brain, they're going to crumble. And that's how the Chiefs win Sunday. Here's Patrick Mahomes on Sports Radio, in his press conference via Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City, talking about having Rashee Rice back in the building this week.
It's huge. I think just having a guy that you work with every single week, all training camp, all off season, and then having him back in the building, he always has a smile on his face, and you can tell the guys, they like him. And kind of like Juju, he's kind of been one of those guys that's been here, and he's won a Super Bowl, and even though he's young, he can kind of be a leader for those guys in the room of how we work and how we get after things. And so obviously he can't practice, but he can be in the meetings and listen to the stuff that we're working on, and it definitely gives a boost to the whole receiving room and the whole offense.
Thank you, Sports Radio 810. Look, here's the thing. Rashee Rice being back in the building is a big deal for these guys. I'll say this. The free 4 shirts that everybody was talking about, where the Chiefs warmed up wearing free 4 shirts with Rashee Rice on it. They want a free Rashee Rice. I wasn't a fan. I'm okay with it because, it's their guy. They like their guy. But in no world am I like, yeah, give Rashee Rice a lesser sentence than 6 games. 6 games for almost killing an entire highway of people. That's fair. That's say thank you. You know what I'm saying? Say thank you. And then walk away. When you get a gift in 6 games for what Rashee Rice did is a gift. Because that was scary and reckless. And he could have really hurt somebody. 8 games is what I expected. I thought 12 games would be harsh, but I thought it was possible. 6 games is an absolute gift. So the fact that Rashee Rice can be back in the building now is a great thing. And I know, look, those are his guys. Those are his friends. They're going to be on his side no matter what. That's great. I'm just saying that from an objective observer standpoint, I didn't like it. However, the fact that Rashee Rice is back in the building is absolutely a positive. These guys have their guy back. He's able to be with the offense, to practice with everybody. And in just a few weeks, we're going to see the premiere of Rashee Rice, a guy that was on pace for 1,500 yards receiving in 2024 before he got injured. And now he has well over a year of that knee getting healed up when he comes back onto the field for Kansas City. And that is going to be awesome. All right, we're gonna wrap this thing up hearing from one more Chiefs player. I say the guy who's been the best thing offensively for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025, and frankly, I don't think it's much of a conversation. I don't think there's a debate against this, because here is the man, Tyquan Thornton.
I mean, sometimes it's just timing, it's always God timing. So when I was there in New England, great time there. I love that staff over there, the players there. I built a good bond with them guys, and I just been making plays. I've been working at it in practice for a long time. I used to always do it in practice, but was never able to just put it on the film in the game. So, just staying true to myself and just continue to doing the same thing.
I'm glad the New England Patriots let him get away, because Tyquan Thornton with Patrick Mahomes looks like a 1-2 punch connection that's going to be dominant in Kansas City for years to come. Tyquan Thornton got a great opportunity here to not have to waste away in New England, but come play with a Hall of Fame quarterback that can hit him on the deep ball the way Tyquan Thornton deserves to be hit. And as that chemistry gets better, we're only going to see better things from Tyquan Thornton. He has so much upside already as a wide receiver. He's so good in so many ways. So now he has a quarterback that can hit him deep. And sometimes that's all it takes, guys. Wide receivers, unfortunately, are many times at the mercy of their quarterback. Jerry Rice. I think Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver to ever walk this earth. I think he's incredible. You look at the longevity of his career and what he was able to do in his 40s, it's inhuman what he was able to do. However, let's not forget he played with Joe Montana and Steve Young. Of course, Jerry Rice was great. But a lot of times as a wide receiver, you are beholden to what your quarterback's capabilities are. And for a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who is a deep ball catcher, you need a guy that can uncork it and launch the deep ball. Kansas City has that guy. New England clearly doesn't. Their quarterback's too busy fumbling like everybody else on their team. I'm sorry, that was just out of nowhere shot at New England. But did you see them? God dang, can anybody on that team not fumble? Is it possible for any Patriot to not fumble? Is that a thing? So Tyquan Thornton goes from that unmitigated disaster going on in New England to Kansas City, and now finally the Tyquan Thornton talent that's always been there is emerging in a massive way that we knew it was supposed to be emerging the entire time. So with Patrick Mahomes and Tyquan Thornton getting that chemistry up, getting better, you want to talk about week 10. What do the Chiefs look like by week 10? What will Patrick Mahomes and Tyquan Thornton's beautiful chemistry look like by week 10, where they're taking the top off the defense and crushing while Rashee Rice is getting 100 yards a game? I'm telling you, this offense has tons of potential. It has yet to reach that potential. It has looked sloppy. It has looked like the game plan's been off. However, as Travis said, we've alluded to it all show, turned a corner in the second half against the Giants. If the Chiefs offense can keep that momentum going, then everything's going to change for this team, and you're going to see an offense that has a chance to dominate going down the stretch and carry the Chiefs into the playoffs, where, as I say always, when you get into the tournament, anything can happen. Whether it's as a 1 seed, 2, 3, all the way down to 7. It doesn't matter how low your seed is. If you're hot and you're playing well going into the tournament, that's all that matters. So don't worry about records and all that BS when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, because they're so far from a finished product, so far from what they're going to be in a couple of months, that by the time January gets here, you're going to be looking back at the 1-2 start and going, well, hell, that was a different football team. And that should get everybody excited. This has been the Chiefs Chase Midweek Blitz. I'm Mike Bassano. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me this week and having fun with me and getting fired up talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Have a great rest of your week. I will see you live streaming on TikTok during the Chiefs and the Ravens on Sunday. Enjoy the game.